You're about to spend money on a GPU, maybe a few $100s, maybe over 1,000. And the market right now is honestly a mess. Prices all over the place, AMD finally competing, Intel trying harder, and Nvidia doing what Nvidia does. So today, I'm ranking every current GPU from worst to best based on real 2026 pricing, real performance numbers, and most importantly, real buying advice. No brand loyalty, no drama, just the truth. Let's get into it. Starting at the very bottom, F tier. These are the cards you should completely avoid in 2026. First up, the Intel Arc B570. It's the cheapest current gen GPU on the market. And cheap is unfortunately the right word for it. Yes, it has 10 gigabytes of RAM, which sounds great on paper, but the processor powering those 10 gigabytes simply isn't strong enough to use them properly. It's like having a sports car engine in a bicycle frame. The performance is weak. Driver support is still inconsistent. And most importantly, for just a little more money, you get dramatically better options. There's almost no reason to buy this card in 2026. The second F tier card is the RTX 5060 Ti 8GB. And this one stings more because it comes from Nvidia, a company that should know better. The 5060 Ti has a powerful chip, but Nvidia put only 8 gigabytes of RAM on it. In 2026, 8 gigabytes of RAM on a card this powerful is simply not acceptable. Modern games like Indiana Jones, Alan Wake 2, and Hogwarts Legacy regularly exceed 8 gigabytes at high settings. You're basically buying a fast car with a tiny fuel tank. At $430 or more, this card is overpriced, under-equipped, and impossible to recommend. Hard pass. Moving up to C tier, these cards aren't terrible, but they have real problems that make them hard to recommend. Starting with the RTX 5060. It's faster than the B570, that's true, but it still ships with only 8 gigabytes of VRAM, and it's actually slower than AMD's competing card at a similar price. NVIDIA's DLSS upscaling is genuinely impressive, and if you only play older or lighter games, you might be fine. But for future proofing, this card will struggle faster than you would like. Next, in C tier, the RX 9060 XT 8GB. AMD's 8GB version has the same VRAM problem as the 5060. And here's the thing. AMD themselves made a 16GB version of this exact same card. And the performance difference is massive, up to 20% better in VRAM heavy titles. So, why would you buy the 8GB version when the 16GB version exists at a similar price? You wouldn't, which is exactly why this card lands in C tier. Also in C tier, the RTX 5070 Ti. It costs around $789. That's a lot of money for a card that gets beaten in raw gaming performance by AMD's 9070 XT, which actually costs less. It has 16 gigabytes of VRAM and excellent ray tracing, and DLSS 4 is genuinely impressive. But value for money in 2026? It just doesn't add up. If the price drops to around $699, this card moves up. But right now, it stays in C tier. And finally, in C tier, the RX 9070. Here's where it gets controversial. The RX 9070 is actually a great GPU, technically. The problem is AMD cannot seem to control retail pricing. The MSRP is reasonable, but street prices are consistently $100 to $150 above that. At MSRP, this card would be a strong B tier, maybe even A tier, but you cannot buy it at MSRP, and I cannot recommend a card based on a price you cannot actually pay. Now we're getting into B tier. Good cards, but with some compromises. Starting with the Intel Arc B580. This is Intel's best GPU yet, and that's not faint praise anymore. 12 gigabytes of RAM, solid 1080p and 1440p performance, and real competition for AMD and NVIDIA at its price point. The problem is that both the RTX 5060 and RX 9060 X T16 GB now compete directly with it, and both edge it out in raw performance. Still, if you find the B580 at a great price, it's a solid pick for $1,440. Out per gaming on a budget. Also in B tier, the RTX 5060 Ti 16 GB. Unlike its 8 GB version, the 16 GB model is actually respectable. The VRAM issue is completely solved. The performance is strong, and DLSS 4 keeps it relevant for years to come. The only reason it's not higher is price. At $430 and above, the 16 GB RX 9060X T gives you almost identical gaming performance for significantly less money. But if you're an NVIDIA person who wants the features, this card makes sense. And pushing the top of B tier, almost touching A, the RX 9070 XT. This is AMD's best GPU in years. Seriously, the performance is class leading at its price point. It beats the 5070 Ti in many titles. And 16 gigabytes of VRAM means it's ready for whatever games throw at it in the next few years. The only reason it's not A tier is street prices sitting around $700 versus an MSRP of $599. If AMD fixes this pricing problem, this card shoots straight to A tier instantly. Now we're in A tier. Excellent cards that are easy to recommend. First up, and honestly, the best value GPU on the entire market right now, the RX 9060 XT 16 GB. This is the sweet spot of the entire GPU market in 2026. 16 gigabytes of VRAM at an accessible price. Strong 1080p and 1440p performance. Consistently available near MSRP. This is the easiest card to recommend to almost anyone. Whether you're a casual gamer, a streamer, or someone who just wants a GPU that will last 3 to 4 years without struggling. This is your card. Buy it. Also in A tier, the RTX 5070. This card surprised a lot of people. At launch, it looked like weak generational performance. But in 2026, with street prices settling around $529 to $549, it's actually one of the better value propositions from NVIDIA in a long time. 12 gigabytes of RAM is sufficient. DLSS 4 is outstanding. Ray tracing performance is excellent, and it edges out the RX 9070 in overall feature package. If you're choosing between the RTX 5070 and the RX 9070 right now, the 5070 often makes more financial sense. And finally, S tier, the best of the best, starting with the RTX 5080. The 5080 sits in a strange position. It has no real AMD competitor. And yet, NVIDIA hasn't completely run away with the price, which is actually surprising. Yes, it's expensive. Yes, 16 gigabytes of VRAM could be more, but the performance is exceptional. DLSS 4 with multi-frame generation is stunning. And if you're doing 4K gaming, content creation, or AI work, this card handles everything without breaking a sweat. And at the very top of S tier, the RTX 5090, the best consumer GPU ever made. Full stop. It's extortionate. It's overkill for 99% of people. But if you have the budget and you want the absolute best, nothing touches it. Not even close. AMD's highest end card gets beaten by 50 to 70% in some benchmarks. It is in a league of its own.